Drug use at Magilligan Prison near Limavady remains a concern, according to the latest report by the Criminal Justice Inspection. It found that 23% of prisoners surveyed said they had developed a problem with drugs, including with medication not prescribed to them while in jail.
But the latest unannounced inspection at Magilligan resulted in what seems to be a pretty glowing report, describing it as one of the highest performing prisons in the UK. It highlighted lower levels of violence and use of force than in similar prisons in England and Wales, along with excellent staff-prisoner relationships.
With us is Jacqui Durkin, who is the CJI's Chief Inspector. Thanks so much for being with us, Jacqui. Let's just talk a little bit about Magilligan to give people an understanding about what it is, first of all. So it's a medium to low security prison, male prisoners. What kind of offenders are we talking about?
Good morning, Sarah and Chris. Yes, it's a prison that takes a lot of men from Magilligan Prison on transfer. There's over 500 prisoners. As of yesterday, there's over 500 prisoners in Magilligan, and it's very much focused on rehabilitation and preparing for release to make sure that men who are in Magilligan use their time purposefully, that they get involved in education and skills and employment when they can, and to prepare them to go back to society in the hope that they don't reoffend and come back into custody.
Yeah, so a full range then of criminal offences really that they're in there for.
There are. I mean, years ago it would have been a prison that would have had a higher density of sex offenders than, but it's a more mixed prison now in terms of the type of offenders that are there. There's still around 200 men that will be subject to public protection arrangements, but there's a range of offences, and there I'm bringing with that a range of needs in terms of mental health issues, learning disabilities, some older prisoners as well with particular needs. So very much a broad spectrum, but what we found was a prison very much focused on safety and security, but also focused on rehabilitation and making sure that men were out of their cells, that they were using their time purposefully, they got involved in education, and that takes a whole team of approach, and that's what we as inspectorates found, that it was about the Northern Ireland Prison Service, the Governor team and their staff, about the South Eastern Health and Social Care Trust, the North West Regional College, and a wide range of stakeholder organisations who provide those services that make Magilligan work the way it does.
Nearly half of them are in education through the North West Regional College, which I was pretty amazed by. They're achieving educational qualifications as well. And the other thing is time out of cell that you mentioned. I mean, up to 8 hours a day.
Yes, and some men were out 10 hours a day if they had a job, if they had an orderly job, or they were involved in education skills. That around 80% of them were. So what is encouraging this is that we could see clear progress from the last time we inspected Magilligan and from the time of the independent review of progress, that the Governor and his team had really got a grip on where Magilligan needed to go in terms of development.
I just wanted to ask you, sorry, there's a couple of things I wanted to ask you, sorry, I don't mean to cut across, but where is the evidence that says that what looks very positive here in a report that you've done actually stops reoffending?
Well, I think it's important to say that this inspection, as we've said, it's a joint effort as well between His Majesty's Inspectorate of Prisons, the Regulation Quality Improvement Authority and the Education and Training Inspectorate. So we look at a range of evidence and 4 teams of inspectors going in to look at that. So the Education and Training Inspectorate, particularly with HMI prisons, will look at purposeful activity and the benefit of purposeful activity, about the range of people who are involved in work and skills, and getting them prepared for release so that they can make better choices when they are released and when...
And they do they?
Yeah.
Does the evidence show that people do make better choices if they have a better time in prison?
Well, I don't know about a better time, Sarah. I don't think anybody's...
A more positive time.
Yeah. Well, a purposeful time and a productive time. That a lot of people arrive in prison that need help with reading and writing, and with mathematics, and actually learning how to function in today's world. And particularly if men have been in custody a long time, it's preparing them for what the world looks like now from when they went in.
Yeah.
And we found that Magilligan was very much focused as a team effort in that rehabilitation piece, and providing opportunities for people to get involved in skills that could lead to employment when they leave prison, as the vast majority of them will do. So a range of activities from barista skills to art to tap into what men would be interested in and could find employment when they left prison. But worryingly too, I think it's important to say, higher numbers than we've seen of people being released from prison homeless, and increasing population with neurodiversity issues, mental health challenges, substance abuse issues, and not necessarily the resources in place. As we know, not enough resources in place to deal with substance abuse issues.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about resources on a couple of levels just before we let you go, Jacqui, and let's talk about the issue within Magilligan, which is still that significant number of the population that have told you that they had a problem with drugs. Why is that not being tackled the way that you would like it to be?
Well, what we found was there needed to be a better drug strategy and action plan in place that was a more joint and partnership approach with the South Eastern Trust and with ADEPT, the providers of services. Big long waiting lists for men who wanted help with their substance abuse issues, not enough resources in place, and men who had come into prison with those issues and with other issues as well in terms of mental health.
But there are also men that develop problems when they got into prison, right?
They do, and I think it's important to say too, the survey is one source of one source of evidence. There are other sources of evidence that we would look at in terms of engaging with the health and health providers, looking at the service providers that help men with those issues, speaking to staff and men. So the survey results are one indication. But what we definitely found was the waiting lists were too long for people who had said they needed help with those substance abuse issues. And that drives behaviours that if you can't get that help, then you're going to try and get drugs by illicit means.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about was violence against women and girls, because you, in your role as the Criminal Justice Inspector, you can look at various different justice organisations, including the PSNI. How worried are you that the Chief Constable, John Boucher, has said that he does not have the capacity, his force do not have the capacity to properly deal with violence against women and girls?
I think, like everyone, I'm deeply concerned about what's happening in terms of violence and the dreadful murders that have happened in our society, and like to add my condolences to the family of Amy Doherty and the courage that's been shown over the last weeks by the McNally family. No one could fail to be in awe of that. I think it's deeply concerning for all of us. And yes, I do regularly inspect. My inspectors inspect the police service. And what we often find is that what's stated as a priority, how that translates into operational practice on the ground. And yes, some of it is about resources, but some of that capacity issue is about the application of skills and consistent application of good investigation, of making sure that people are skilled to do the job that they need to do, and making sure that those priority areas are resourced properly. So if everything is a priority, as we know, then what is nothing becomes a priority. So yes, I'm deeply concerned, like everyone in society, but very focused on improvement and helping the police service to improve through recommendations that we make.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Jacqui Durkin, the Criminal Justice Inspection's Chief Inspector.